Ladies and gentlemen, bookworms, beach bums alike, welcome once again. It is the 7th annual Beach Bound Book Bash. My name's Desiree Duffy, and I am so elated to have you with us today. This spectacular event is brought to you by Books That Make You, Bedside Reading, and Black Chateau. Now, if you're watching right now, you might be watching on Facebook or you might be watching on YouTube. Here's the deal. The Facebook group for Beachbound Book Bash, which you can find on the Books That Make You page, they're connected. That's very interactive and where all of the fun is happening. I mean, the fun is here, but then we have this group going on and there's going to be contests and chit chats and all sorts of things happening there. So please do make sure you join the Beachbound Book Bash Facebook group so that you can take advantage of the full immersive Beachbound Book Bash. And I am excited now to present to you our dazzling hosts for this event, the multi-talented Anastasia Washington. Anastasia is not only an award-winning actress, comedian, she's a writer, podcaster, a director. She also adds singer, model, Comic-Con panelist. Oh gosh, okay, it's a long list. Dance hall queen. I have no idea what that means, but I hope we find out. Um, she's got this impressive list of titles. Anastasia is going to be at the helm, and joining her is CJ. And you are welcome. And CJ is our co-host slash producer, and she equally has this long list of accomplishments. That's the thing nowadays. We all need to be like 20 different things. CJ is a writer, a novelist. She is a podcast host. She is a media mogul with the Author's Porch magazine and so much more. Ladies, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. I'm so excited.
Whoop, whoop.
Beach Book Bash. Whoop, whoop.
Yeah. Where's the drinks? Who's got the drink? You got the drink?
I got water. That's okay.
Oh, I got a Gatorade. Man.
Your drink looks so much better.
It's tea. It's tea. It's a literary tea.
Oh, kind of. I love that. I love a tea.
When we started Beachbound Book Bash, way back when the world was normal once upon a time, we actually held it at a place, you might recognize it, Anastasia, being from Southern California, T-Pop in North Hollywood.
Oh,
yes! We would be there live in person with authors doing readings, and it was in the sun, and it was a delightful, wonderful event. Things happened, and now the Beachbound Book Bash has been online and available for people around the world since then, but it began as a literary tea. So I have my iced tea here.
I love that. I love a literary tea. I love tea in general. Tea and books, sign me up.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, because this time of the year, there's a special thing that happens if you're a bibliophile. Right? You go to the beach with your books. You travel with your books.
Yes.
The kids are home from school for the summer, and you give them lots and lots of books to read.
Oh, yes.
So,
yeah.
Learn things.
I don't know if they still do that, but like, remember when you would read books over the summer and you would get like a pizza coupon or something like that for reading so many books? Yeah. Oh gosh, I was getting free pizza left and right because I was such like a bookworm. I was like, here's another one. Here's another one. It was great.
I love that. Well, we don't have free pizza, but there is a really cool contest, and people can enter it now. Up until I think about an hour from now, I think is when we're going to draw the winner. So at the end of the event, and we're guesstimating the end to be around 3:30 p.m. Pacific time, maybe 1:45. We'll see. We're having fun, so we're not going to be too hung up on our schedules. But that's when we're going to announce the winner of the big giveaway. Now, you can go to the Books That Make You website, and where it says win on the top, just click there and you'll see the giveaway. Plus, The team is in the background. Anastasia and CJ, we have a full team in the background, and they're hanging out and they're posting links again, the Facebook group pages in the chat. And everybody that's, watching and, hanging out with us can join in the chat too. So
Love it.
it's the time to enter that. Please do. And we'll announce the winners at the end.
I love free stuff. I love competitions.
Right? And there's so many ways you could add more and more entries. So get all of those
Oh my
entries
gosh.
in. I mean, I know I put all my entries in. I got like a gazillion, so you're gonna have to really step it up.
Okay, like she can't win everything, you guys. You've got
Come
to.
on, I need books. I have a beach 30 minutes away. I need books.
Ragging. Love it.
All right. Well, and CJ, if anything, I look forward to having your doggo reading books because that is one of the cutest things I see when I follow social media.
He loves reading. He turns his own pages. He is too much.
Oh.
And he loves the attention too, you guys. So Elvis the Little Prince loves doing children's book reviews. He just cannot get enough. He has his new one going up this weekend. One of the authors that is going to be on today's show, actually, he loves the Noodles books. He cannot get enough of Stephen's books.
Love it. Oh, I love it.
That's so exciting. And yeah, so one of the things everybody's going to experience today is the authors reading. One of them is, of course, Stephen Joseph, who CJ just mentioned. And some of them are going to be chatting about their books. Some of them will be doing presentations. We have one to kick us off that includes a recipe as well.
I
So
know.
Anastasia, CJ, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce our very first author.
I'm so
Awesome.
excited for this. Yay.
Bye, Desiree.
Bye. See you soon.
Yes.
Well, I know I'm super excited about this first guest. Jennifer Moorman is going to actually be doing a dessert recipe for us. I wish that I could taste it. That's
Yes.
yeah.
Shall we bring her up and show
Let's
everyone
bring
the
her up.
amazing things? Oh,
Yes.
I'm so excited.
Okay. Ooh, okay.
Oh, welcome.
Oh my gosh.
Hey.
Hello.
I'm so excited to see y'all. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for being on and making us dessert.
I wish you could eat some with me.
I mean, I'll try, but just throw it. I'll try to catch it. So what do you have for us from your amazing book, The Baker's Man? What are you making today?
So as you mentioned, this is inspired by The Baker's Man, which is a story of a small town Southern baker who creates a man out of dough, and it turns her life upside down. So today we're not making a man out of dough, but we're going to make something almost as delicious as a man. Okay. So
all right.
I wanted to do something because it's summertime. Like you mentioned, we're getting ready to go to the beach. We're going to have barbecues. We can get outside and have picnics. So this is a great, easy, super easy summer recipe that holds up well when you're going to be outside. So it is called a fruit pizza. And you don't have to be an experienced baker to do this. It's also really fun for kids. It's something that you can do together in the kitchen. So it starts out with a super simple sugar cookie base. So this looks like pizza dough, but this is actually a sugar cookie. You can make your own homemade sugar cookie dough. But again, if you're not a baker, you can buy those easy, already made tubes of cookie dough in the grocery store, and you can get sugar cookie. If you want to get fancy, you can get a different kind of cookie dough, but sugar cookie works really well. It's just sweet enough. And so the easy part is we're going to decorate it with fruit. Wonderful fruit. So today I've got strawberries, I've got kiwi, blueberries. I also have some nectarines. So let's just build this thing. This is super easy. Follow the instructions if you buy the tube from the grocery store, how to heat it up, preheat your oven, how long to cook it. And what I did for this was I cut the tube in half and then I mashed it into a circle. So if I had used the whole tube, it would be a much larger pizza. But the good thing about this is you can make two and you can decorate it two different ways. So for the base, instead of your pizza sauce, I've got Greek yogurt. It's better if you use plain Greek yogurt or vanilla. I wouldn't get too fancy with the other kinds of flavors. You can also use cream cheese. So if you're not a big yogurt fan, they both offer tang. If you want to use cream cheese, you want to bring it to room temperature because obviously when it's cold, it's in that block. It's going to be really hard to spread. But I've got Greek yogurt here today. It's vanilla Greek yogurt. I'm going to put it right on my cookie. I have a tiny spatula that I'm going to use, but you can use a spoon, the back of a spoon, if you've got a big spatula, if you have an offset spatula. I just say use what you have in your kitchen. You could use your fingers. It's going to get messy.
That sounds like what the kids would do.
Absolutely. And I think you can just have fun with it. So I'm just going to spread this out just like you would on a regular pizza with your sauce. You just want to leave a tiny little edge around like a crust. You don't need as much crust as you want with your pizza. I'm a dough person. So when I make pizzas, I want a lot of crust, but just push it about maybe into a 1/4 inch all around your cookie. And then the next part is just as easy as you can imagine. We're going to take the fruit that I've already cut up and just decorate the pizza. So for fruit, as I mentioned, I've got strawberries and kiwi and blueberries. You can use any kind of fruit except watermelon. Watermelon is very watery and it'll make it soggy. The other thing is bananas, although they're wonderful, they will brown very quickly. So if you're looking for something, maybe not as brown, I wouldn't go with bananas. And the other important thing is to slice them very small. Like if you're going to do strawberries, if you want to do, you can do mangoes, you can do apples, you can do pears, you can do, all the berries are great. They're not only great because they're already tiny, but they're, you don't have to prep them. You don't have to cut them. You can just put them right on your pizza. So what I'm doing right now is just lining the outside with strawberries. This is where you and your kids can get really creative. You don't have to do it a certain way. You can also Google search fruit pizza and get lots of fun examples and pictures you can look at. And then I'm going to put some kiwi. I sliced my kiwi pretty small. You can also do grapes. Those are fun. I would just cut them in half so they're easy to eat, because once we get this decorated, you're going to want to cut it into slices. And if the fruit is too big, it's kind of clunky and hard to cut through. You can see. Oh, yes.
Would you use blackberries by any No,
I think blackberries are great. If you get, sometimes in the summertime when you get fresh blackberries, they can be giant. You might want to cut them in half. And if you cut them in half and do them half facing out, they're beautiful inside. A lot of people don't know how pretty blackberries are inside, but you cut them in half and just put them up. But I would just say any fruit you love other than watermelon, which I love, just cut up some watermelon and put it as a side dish. It's just going to make your pizza soggy. So I'm going to decorate around here with some nectarines. I got these in the can, and they came in a light, simple syrup. I washed them off because that can get real sweet, but you don't have to do that. And this is just easy peasy, guys. I am almost done with this pizza.
Ooh.
And I'm going to lift it up and show it to you.
But
raspberries. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just for raspberries, blueberries, blackberries. We don't have huckleberries here, but if you had some, you could put them on here. You can make like a rainbow. I've seen a rainbow where they use mangoes and they put the rainbow color. And then I've seen if you do like 4th of July, you can do red, white, and blue. All right, guys, easy peasy. This thing is done.
Wow, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And it's real easy. It's like simple pretty. You saw I didn't spend a lot of time making this. The longest thing is baking that cookie. You get up in the morning, bake that cookie, and you can sit it out as long as you need to.
And what a fun thing to take to a party too. Like I feel like I would feel impressed, but at the same time, like it didn't take me that long.
That's exactly right. To me, it's one of those things that I call semi-homemade. You've heard other people say that. It's like you buy something and that it's already, like I bought packaged cookie dough. I love making homemade cookies, but if I'm going to a picnic or I want, my kids to help, it's just easy and it looks so pretty. So I cut us off a little slice here. Oh, look at that.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And there you go.
Taste it. Oh, I can taste it right now. Oh.
If we had Willy Wonka, he could find a way for us to transmit it to each other.
Yes.
Where is that taster vision that we need?
Right. If I could teleport it, I definitely would, because now I have this giant cookie to eat.
Wow. That is
Well, that's
amazing.
it, guys. Easy
That's
peasy. It's
amazing.
great. You can get creative with it. You can make it your own. And then when you're done, you can have basically a semi-healthy dessert as well. It's got Greek yogurt and fruit. The cookie is very thin, you know.
I love that. I love that. And tell us a little bit, you know, we have some time to talk about The Baker's Man. Tell us more about The Baker's Man.
Well, The Baker's Man takes place in the fictional small South Georgia town of Mystic Water. And what happens is the main character, Anna, she inherits 3 things from her grandmother. She inherits this bakery, she inherits culinary superpowers, and she inherits this locked box that her grandmother says you will know exactly when to open it, and you'll know what to do with it when you get it open. And so she puts it aside and doesn't think anything about it. She's running the bakery, and then one day, with the help of her best friend, she decides to open that box, and inside that box is what you'll find out is magic sugar. And there's also a recipe to create the perfect man, which she absolutely does not think will work. But
I need that recipe.
You know how you and your best friend are. She can convince you to do some crazy stuff sometimes. So her best friend says, "No, we need to try this thing out. You need to see if this works." She doesn't think it's going to work. So they do this recipe. They make this man. Anna goes to bed that night. When she wakes up the next morning, there is a handsome man in her bakery. And from there, you just find out what actually happens when you make a man out of dough.
Well, I just want to buy it just for the culinary superpowers and the fact that there's a recipe for the perfect man.
Absolutely. And it works.
And it works. Oh, I'm in.
I need a bite of that.
Yeah. Well, and the good thing about the perfect man is that recipe, it's going to be different for everybody. You know, there's not one perfect recipe. It's the perfect recipe for you, for me, for who else. And so one of the fun things that I always like to ask people is, what ingredients, other than what's in the recipe, because you have some wiggle room, what ingredients would you put in there that would help create your perfect man?
Ooh, what was on your perfect ingredient list?
Chocolate.
I agree.
I love chocolate. I also love Mexican chocolate, so it's got a little bit of cayenne kick.
Yes, I love that.
A little bit of spice to it. It's got a little bit of whole wheat flour, because I do like healthy.
Okay.
I like a balance. So I think there's a good balance of a man, and so it's been fun to hear what people want to put in there. They want to put cinnamon, they want to put basil, rosemary, because the thing is it's not necessarily something you're making that you're going to eat. So there's some ingredients that might be your favorite thing, like coffee, but maybe you don't want coffee bread. But really what's going to happen is you're going to get up the next morning and there's going to be your perfect man. It's worth it.
I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
But this is part, the Baker's Man is part of the Mystic Water series. All the books are standalone. So this is book 1. Book 2 has already come out as well. And so it's just fun. They're standalones, but the fun thing is you'll see that characters just kind of weave in and out. I mean, you've read series like that where the main character in one book might be a secondary character in another one. So you definitely don't have to read them in order, but it's a really fun town where anything can happen and usually does.
I love that you're building this world that we can just weave in and out of. And, listen, where can people find you? Where can people find more information about these books and amazing recipes like this one?
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned the recipes, because guys, I do create a bunch of recipes inspired by my novels, but other people's too, like inspired by fiction. I love coming up with savory and sweets. I mean, obviously I do a lot of sweets, but sometimes I do savory. But I have a website. It's jennifermoorman.com. I'm most active on Instagram. That's just my favorite platform. I love the pictures. I love the imagery. I just love the vibe of Instagram. So it's Jennifer R. Moorman. And then I'm also on Facebook. It's Jennifer Moorman Books. And I think those are my 2 main platforms. That's where you can find me doing the most stuff. But Instagram, I'm surely the most active, because I've always just loved that. Like I said, I love the pictures.
It's
and
a great
imagery.
visual. Yeah, it's a great visual platform.
That curated imagery style, I love that. So I'd love for people to find me there and find more of the books and I just love connecting, honestly, with other authors, other readers. I mean, I'm a book lover like y'all are, so I just feel like we're the best kind of people as people who like books.
Agreed, agreed. Thank you so much for being on, and thank you for this amazing snack that I am definitely making this week for sure.
Thank y'all for having me. I've had a great time.
Thanks. Oh my gosh, I really am gonna make that.
I need that, and I need that recipe that I'm going to
Yeah,
take a bite out
I
of too.
feel like I've been trying to make that perfect recipe, man, for a long time.
I've got 90%. I'm just going to add a few ingredients I need to learn
Well,
from that book. Yeah.
all right. That's fair.
Yeah. Who do we have next, Anastasia?
Oh, well, our next guest is Susy Smith. And she's the author of Asylum, and I'm so excited to have her on. And she will actually be doing a reading from her upcoming novel, which I'm super excited about.
Yeah, let's bring on Susie.
Yeah. Hello.
Hi. Thank you for having me. That's going to be a hard act to follow. She did an amazing job.
Oh my gosh.
There's no competition here, and I'm sure you have a lot to bring. Okay, and I'm all for all kinds of different energy. I love it. Tell us a little bit about. So you're going to actually be reading from your forthcoming novel, Ascendant. Tell us a little bit about that before getting into the reading.
Well, Ascendant is the second book in the Asylum series, and the really I'll give you my spiel on Asylum first, because they're both, you can read them separated, but it's better to, I always say it's better to start at the beginning. So
I'm a completionist, so I would love to start from the beginning and go.
Yeah.
So I get it. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So this is my short description of Asylum. In a future where the United States is controlled by a military-style government, the government has taken control because we've experienced a major economic crash, and everything is in total chaos. Young Lacey Monroe struggles against evil men and forces of nature to keep her family farm intact. In the process, she provides asylum for a diverse crew. It's kind of a found family trope. Who might or might not, some of them might be trustworthy, some of them might not. And she falls in love with the brother of her worst enemy. So,
Sounds very intriguing.
yeah.
I mean, anytime you put government and control and military, I mean, I'm just catching my breath right now. So.
Oh, and plus we have all the complications of relationships that seem to be layered on there. I love it.
I told Desiree that I had started out, I wanted to be a romance writer. I really did. She was asking, because the writing kind of tends to go a little bit on the dark side. It gets really suspenseful. I think I would describe it more as being really suspenseful. But I wanted to be a romance writer, so all my books are going to have that element in it. I just can't help it.
I love it. I think it really layers at any book to have these, like, love stories and
Right.
Yeah. Well, tell us about the one that you'll be reading from, which is the second in the series.
Right. Ascendant picks up where Asylum left off. Asylum wasn't really left on a cliffhanger. It was more of an ambiguous ending, like, because, at the point when I stopped writing Asylum, I didn't know if I wanted to make this a series or not. But I went ahead and decided to. So the ending is kind of an open. I left it open. Ascendant, the main characters, Lacey and Jace, are running from her uncle. And you'll find out in the first book that her uncle is a U.S. senator from Texas, and he has his own political agenda, and he wants total control of the United States because he doesn't agree with what the president is doing. So you've got that in the background going too. And so he wants them separated. So they're at the Texas Mexico border because they were going to go down to Mexico, and he stops them. So it's their journey. You know, a lot of bad things happen to Lacey as a result of it. And so do you guys have any questions? Did I describe it well enough?
No,
I'm not really very
perfect.
good. I'm not really very good at that at all.
You did a great job. We would just love to hear.
When people ask me, what's your book about? My mind just literally goes blank. So I have my little cheat sheet over here.
Well, you know, let the reading speak for itself. I'd love to hear what you have to read for us.
Okay, I didn't really pick a big chunk of it, so I don't know how much time. I mean, are we okay on time?
We're great on time. You're great.
Okay. So this is actually from the first chapter, and it's in Thomas Monroe's point of view, which is the senator, which is her uncle, and she's escaped from him, and this is his his take on it. And I started the book out because I really like the evil uncle. There's just something about him I like. So let me take a drink first. Okay. Control over one snot-nosed almost adult shouldn't have been this hard. Control. Simple, really, in its complexity. But as Senator Thomas Monroe walked through his niece Lacey's deserted bedroom, its emptiness mocked him, reminded him control could be elusive without a defining show of strength. He would show her the cost of disobedience. He had that right, after all, even if the girl knew nothing about how close their familial bond ran. Shifting to the broken window, he lifted the tarp's corner flap where she'd made her escape. The unforgiving February wind had whipped its edges into tiny white strips. Deep in thought, he didn't feel the frosty air blowing against his face. When he'd hatched his plan to foil the president's military state, the idea of using his niece to complete certain delicate tasks hadn't occurred to him. He trusted no one. He couldn't. But the leverage he used against her and Jace Cooper provided the assurance to facilitate his plan. He couldn't afford to fail. The boy would go to any lengths, even if it meant his death, to keep Lacey out of danger. Case in point, he'd killed his own brother for her. Reports on the murder of his longtime friends Jake and Hannah Cooper had shocked and saddened him. Not long after, a report filtered in that their oldest son, Zach, had been killed by Jace. The report went on to speculate the reasons why, none of which he believed. When Jace showed up in Texas looking for him, it wasn't difficult to surmise the boy had something to do with it. After interviewing him in the jail cell in which he'd been detained, he knew Jace had killed his brother. It wasn't until he'd reached the farm that he learned the reason why. He didn't blame the boy. If Jace hadn't done it, he'd have seen to Zach's punishment. And Lacey? It was apparent she'd risked everything for him. She'd defied his direct order to stay at the farm. Instead, she'd escaped out a broken window and out of his grasp. The thought irked him. The bond between the two couldn't be broken. He didn't want to break it. He wanted to exploit it. He shut the bedroom door against the icy wind blowing through the broken window and walked into the kitchen. His euphoria diminished somewhat as he contemplated his current situation. He had no idea Manuel Nieto, a highly respected Mexican politician, ran a human trafficking ring. Pulling Nieto into their country's problems was risky. It was dicey. The man controlled most of the Mexican drug cartels and had unfathomable connections. He but he'd weighed the alternatives and none had the outcome he desired most: total control over the United States. I'm going to stop right there.
Wow.
I know. I was like, I felt like I was listening to an audiobook, and I forgot that we were on a live event.
I know.
That's a compliment.
I was like, who kills what? What? So
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
So much
good.
intrigue. I
Good.
love it.
Good. I'm glad.
What kind of made you want to write about this subject matter?
Well,
Or what inspired you to kind of write these?
I just want to write something that matters, and looking at things like, okay, I live right on the I-35 corridor in Oklahoma. Oklahoma experiences sex trafficking, and that kind of shocked me when I first heard it. My daughter was a police officer for the Kaw Nation, and they have a travel plaza up right on the I-35, and she got calls sometimes about that. She couldn't go into detail, really. She didn't tell me any of the details, but it's more common, I think, than
we realize.
Yeah. And if I can, like in the back of Asylum, the author's note has information about RAIN, about if you're a rape victim, if you have experienced sexual assault, there's help. And so in the back of this one, Ascendant, there is Can You See Me is the website, and it's very informational. It has a lot of information about sex trafficking and stuff.
Well, thank you so much for putting those in your books, and thank you so much for this reading such important topics. Where can people find you?
I have on my website, susysmith.com, or on Facebook. And I really pay attention to my Facebook more than anything else. So if they come and find my Facebook page, I would absolutely love it.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing your stories with us, and really appreciate it. Have such an amazing day. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you.
Oh. Hello. Hello. Welcome. Welcome, Kelly Anne Manuel. Tell us about you have several books. You have 31 books? 31 books. And I see them all behind you. Tell us a little bit about making 31 books.
Well, it's so nice to meet you and CJ. You guys are a great team already. Your energy is coming through the screen, so keep it up. It's wonderful. I'm kind of an interesting story. I'm an uncommon author. I just started writing in March of last year.
March of last year, and you have, I'm sorry, I'm going to read it again, 31 books.
It's really true. It's unbelievable. March 2022, and I wrote them. They're all poems that I wrote, changed into children's stories. So they're modern day nursery rhymes.
Oh, I love
what they
it.
are. It's really great. So I wrote them, and then I thought I need to get these published quickly because the children need them. It felt like a need to get them out. So that's what I did. I basically turned in all the manuscripts in July, and August and September, all the books were published. So I started writing in March. By the end of September, we had 31 books.
Wow.
Yeah.
A lot.
You should feel very accomplished. That is unheard of. I would say unheard of.
I haven't heard of it other than Kelly Anne.
You're the first.
I am different.
So in March, when you get this idea that what motivated you to start on this journey?
Well, this is what I tried to describe it this way. I had to do, I went through a lot in my life, and I came to a point where I had to do a lot of work on myself. So I do all this work, and what it helped me accomplish was an inner quiet. I would describe it as an inner quiet. Then I created outer quiet. By getting the quiet, I heard the poetry. I heard it, and I just started writing it down. It was just all in there. But if I hadn't done the work, it would be like the hardwoods under the 70s carpet, where you would never see the hardwoods until you pull up the 70s carpet that might not be in great shape, right? So the books were always...
I feel that so much. I mean, just a little side story. When my mom and dad broke up, we had shag carpet in the whole house. And the next day, after they broke up, we discovered there was hardwood floor because my mom took it all up. So I feel that. Oh gosh, thank God there's hardwood.
That 70s carpet had to come up, I'll tell you what. And once it did, the books could bubble to the surface, right? And then I just felt the need, because what the books do as modern day nursery rhymes, they're a layer of support for children. They're about experiences, right? So you take a lot of my experiences, and I gained strength and resilience. So I kind of take little threads of my experiences and how to be resilient, and then I put them into the nursery rhymes. So I consider them to be really important for a child, because for me, there were times in life where I needed something outside maybe some people. And I look at literature as a layer of support. And that's what the books are. And that's why I felt the urgency to get them published, because it's the time for them to be here. I just know that, in my soul and in my core. And so I just did what anyone should do when you get that kind of poetry and you get those kind of nursery rhymes. And I just put them out there for the children to have just as quickly as I could.
Well, I think you're such an inspiration to the fact that, like, so many people feel like they have these stories inside them, right? So many people have so much to tell and so much to process and put out in the world. And yet we convince ourselves it's not the right time. It's not, I'll wait until blah, 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 blah. You were like, no, let's let this out. Let's let these messages out. And I love the message of resilience, like, especially for kids. Like, I feel like there's so much stuff that they're processing, and the best way is to, like, figure it out through, like, art and literature. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. So okay, I can't even ask you which was your first book. What was your first book? Do you know which one was the one of 31? Okay,
I sure did, because when I wrote the first book, I thought it was an only child, and I'm like, oh, I'm having an only child. Well, next thing you know, I'm having multiples, right? I'm not having
31.
I went from one crib to 31 cribs. Okay, right?
Yes.
Who's going to fit 31 cribs? Anyway, the point is, My Name is Mountain. My Name is Mountain is my first book, and that came. I'm in a healing program, a fantastic healing program with a fantastic doctor, and there was a journal prompt, and the journal prompt led to My Name is Mountain. And it's twofold. My Name is Mountain is twofold, because it's about how the mountain is fulfilling its purpose. But little by little, people are taking a pebble from the base of the mountain home with them, because the mountain is doing such a good job and they want it displayed in their home. So next thing you know, the mountain isn't a mountain anymore. It's a hole. And the child is trying to say, hey, you're saying your name is Mountain, but you look like a hole. And there's just a healthy dialogue of observation and clarity. And by the end, they agree. Basically, the child says, I'm going to respect who you think you are. but it's about internal, external duality. It's about who am I? What am I putting out into the world? What am I internally? So it's about self. So all the My Name Is books are about self and development of self-esteem, identity, and how to express that in a clear, concise way. This is a model. The books model healthy behaviors.
Love it. And you have something that you're going to be reading for us, I believe. Well,
because look at the cover.
The skate free. Okay.
Skate free.
I love it.
I flip titles. So the skate free. I skated a lot growing up, roller skated. So I took free skate, where I used to free skate at the roller rink, and it was like the best time. So that's why it's the skate free.
Love it. Love.
This book is dedicated to Coretta Scott King, an author in her own right. The other day, I went to visit a friend who lives at the tail of a rainbow's end. I'd like to report the words that I heard. There was a skate free where many lines blurred. I learned a skate free is a name that is for something with wheels that finds itself out a door. Who could dream of anything else? I was inspired to take off the shelf a bike and a buggy, then a scooter and cart. Here is a skate free with an early morning start. I soon realized a thought that arose from within. When wheels begin rolling, countless journeys begin.
Wow. Love, love, love that. Where can people find you and your books?
Thanks for asking. I did hybrid publishing with a company called Balboa Press. So the books are on the Balboa Press bookstore. And then you can really find your own way. They're on Google Play. They're on Barnes & Noble. There are, various retailers, I think like Walmart, and then some like the bookstore, a company called the Bookstore. So, you can just Google my name and then you can kind of decide how you would like to purchase them. But you can do an ebook, or that the good way to kind of get your toe wet is to get an ebook. Just get one, and then you'll be like, oh, I want all the rest, right?
Yes.
And they are, the plan is for this month for them, I'm putting them into audio format, all 31 books. Audio.
Yay, I love
and
it.
they're gonna be on Audible, Spotify. So wait till you hear my narrator and the sound effects. And it's a company called Pro Audio Voices, and they are just supreme. So I'm very blessed. I'm really blessed.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for reading with us, and everyone buy all 31 of her books.
Oh, it's one for every day of the month.
There you go. Perfect.
Wow.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for talking with us, and have an amazing day.
All right.
Kelly.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Okay. Take care, y'all.
Thank you.
How cute was that?
Oh my gosh. So cute. I love it. I'm inspired, really.
Yes. But I don't know if I have the chops like her to ever
I
do
believe you
31. Oh my gosh, she's amazing.
I believe you
And
do.
the next author, like, can we even? Who do we have next? Like,
We have E.A. Can we say her last name correctly? Can you say her name?
Smiroldo?
Smiroldo. Thank
Yes.
you. E.A. Smiroldo. Novelist, musician, and nuclear engineer.
Yes.
Like real life superhero here.
Right.
And she has a debut novel called The Silent Count. I'm so excited. I am so excited. Come on in. bring her on.
Yes. Hi.
So,
Hi.
hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. I'm coming to you live from the Buffalo Creek Ranch. It's an arts colony in, of all places, in Gardnerville, Nevada. So
Wow.
it's not the beach, but it's near Lake Tahoe. So eventually there will be some beach in under my toes.
I
Yay.
love it. And I love Lake
Yeah.
Tahoe.
It's
great.
fantastic.
So I mean, you are super qualified in everything, apparently.
Oh.
So tell us a little bit about your debut novel, The Silent Count, which apparently also highlights 10 weird nuclear science facts.
Well, the
What?
novel does feature a main character who's a nuclear engineer, kind of like me, because I guess I write what I know. But I will regale you with some fun nuclear facts that you may actually like. Some of which, one of which is the top one, involves my personal connection to both Batman and Superman. So I invite everyone to stay to the end, and you'll find that out. So yes,
my
shall I do
gosh.
my top 10? This is
Yes,
it's a
please
climate
do.
change thriller. Yeah, it's a climate change thriller, as I said, and all heck breaks loose. So I will start with the number 10 fact, which ties into my
Sounds
novel.
great.
So number 10, The Silent Count is based on a real nuclear fact, which is pretty crazy. The first page of my nuclear engineering textbooks in college said that nuclear weapons could be used to create things like artificial harbors, artificial lakes. You could extract oil from shale, and you could even use them to eliminate certain mountain ranges to create more favorable weather patterns. Now, nobody recommended that we do this, but I thought, well, someone needs to write a crazy science fiction novel with this as a premise. And since no one did, I decided to step up. So that's my number 10 nuclear fact, and that is the premise of The Silent Count. It was actually a real idea, which was part of Eisenhower's Project Plowshares under the Atoms for Peace program back in the 50s. One of the crazier ideas, this is number 9, that came out of this line of thinking was that the Ford Motor Company in 1957 created a concept car, and it was a nuclear-powered car called the Ford Nucleonic. Now, they never actually made this into a real car, and I think that's probably wise that they did not. But the number 8 fascinating fact is that, the Soviet Union actually did have a very similar program to Project Plowshares. And their program, they actually went through with a few things, one of which was they created an artificial lake in Kazakhstan. So anyone who's thinking of, doing some swimming at their vacation in Kazakhstan, I highly recommend you perhaps think twice. Speaking of swimming, let's get to number 7. So the most famous bathing suit of all time is, of course, the bikini. And it has a nuclear connection because where was the first nuclear weapon tested? It was tested on Bikini Atoll, which was part of the Marshall Islands, which were a U.S. trust territory back in the 40s, in 1946. And because it blew everybody's mind, the French designer decided to call his little tiny bathing suit the bikini. In addition, he also referred to it as the Atom, which is because he said it was the world's smallest bathing suit. And he's probably right. Let's go on to number 6. The number 6 craziest nuclear fact. So radioactive materials have long been used to power space vehicles. The Cassini-Saturn orbiter, the Viking Mars lander, and quite a few others. And they work by using plutonium-238 to convert the heat as they decay, as the plutonium-238 decays into electricity. So it's a little different from what happens in a chain reaction in a nuclear reactor, but it's pretty powerful, and that is why those rovers can stay up there for years and years in space and get the job done. The number 5 craziest nuclear fact is that it's a little closer to home, and I hope everyone's sitting down for this because plutonium-238 was actually used to power cardiac pacemakers and artificial hearts in quite a few patients back in the 60s and 70s, and I think even the 80s. We don't do it so much now, but they were used because they have a plutonium has an 88-year half-life, so they lasted quite a long time. And the regular conventional pacemakers, the batteries don't last as long. So if you had a very young person that need a pacemaker, they have plutonium-238 inside their bodies. People were when these people, so a lot of these are still in operation. When these individuals pass on to the next realm, the pacemaker is supposed to be removed and sent over to Los Alamos National Lab for disposal, proper disposal. But let's just hope that nobody gets cremated before they realize you're supposed to do it. I suspect nobody has, but that would be very bad if someone was. Let's move on. Speaking of potential nuclear accidents, well, this was actual. The number 4 craziest nuclear fact, and this pertains to Chernobyl accident. The Chernobyl accident, when it happened, and I actually in my career Chernobyl used to be one of my projects. So I used to go over there and help the regulator work on some of their safety projects after the accident. This is in the future years. But I met the guy that ran the exclusion zone, and he said that people were given 3 days they were told they would be evacuated for 3 days, and just to get what they needed, money, clothes, whatever, for 3 days. And of course, they were evacuated forever. So that was not nice. They were lied to. But number 3, speaking of nuclear accidents, here's one that you may not have heard of. Did you know that in 1966, and I'm not making this up, 4 hydrogen bombs accidentally fell out of a B-52 bomber? And 1 fell into the Atlantic Ocean, but the other 3 fell onto a small Spanish fishing village. This is not made up. This really happened.
No.
Yes, and the bombs didn't explode. However, for 2 of the plutonium-filled detonators in the bombs, they did go off, scattering 7 pounds of plutonium-239, which is fissile, all over the landscape. So the U.S. military went in to try to clean up and recover these weapons, and supposedly they did, but up to this year, the Spanish government is still asking the U.S. government to come back and finish the job to clean up the residue. So anyone who wants to spend some time on a Spanish beach, just think twice if you're going to go to this fishing village where it happened. That's a crazy story. Speaking of hydrogen bombs, the father of the hydrogen bomb was J. Robert Oppenheimer, who a movie will be made about this. It will be released this summer called Oppenheimer. And I'm really excited for it. So he actually resigned from his post at as the head of Los Alamos National Lab after the bombs were dropped in Japan during World War II, because he felt that he had blood on his hands. So he was very thoughtful about it. He knew kind of what could happen. And then when it did happen, he just didn't want to be part of it. So he moved on. So that movie is coming out this summer, and I'm looking forward to it. Also, the Barbie movie. I like Barbies too, and I like Barbies. And I like Oppenheimer, and I think the Venn diagram of that is just me.
We could do a combo. Barbenheimer. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, that's a great sequel.
I'd watch it.
So that's the number 2. So now we're getting to the number 1 craziest nuclear fact, and this one involves myself and my personal connection to both Batman and Superman. And this is an absolutely true story. So I will reveal this now. So in 2016, a very bad movie came out called Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, starring Ben Affleck as Batman. I guess that was the first time he portrayed Batman, I think, in a movie. And I don't think I'm saying anything out of turn when I say this movie was not liked by pretty much anybody. It had a 29% on the Rotten Tomato meter. So not a good movie. I don't think any spoilers I reveal will diminish anyone's enjoyment of the movie, because they probably weren't going to enjoy it anyway.
Definitely not.
Yes. So anyway, in this movie, so Lex Luthor, who is Superman's arch nemesis, Lex Luthor finds out that there are these radioactive minerals in some foreign land, and he finds out secretly that these minerals weaken weaken kryptonium cells. Now, who is from Krypton that has kryptonian cells? Superman. So, of course, Lex Luthor wants to weaken Superman. So he goes to Junior Senator Holly Hunter and requests an import license to import these radioactive minerals into the United States. So sounds plausible, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that is absolutely false. First of all, you actually only need a specific license to a specific import license to import nuclear waste into the United States. So let's just say that these minerals were extracted from nuclear waste, right? Well, the person that you would get these minerals from, the person you would get your import license from, is not the Senate. I would hope the Senate has a lot else to do, like maybe, passing a bill to ensure that the world economy doesn't fall apart. So anyway, that is not who you get it from. The person you get it from is the deputy director of international programs for the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission. And I'm here to tell you that in 2016, when this movie came out, from time to time, the acting deputy director of the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission was none other than your girl, myself, E.A. Smiroldo. So he would have had to ask for it from me. And I, of course, would have said no. But I'm glad it didn't come to that, because let's just say things did not go well for Junior Senator Holly Hunter.
No.
You don't see her in the future sequels, and there's a reason.
So
that was my number one top crazy nuclear facts.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
I'm so glad Lex Luthor didn't talk with you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you would have killed Superman.
Yeah.
I think he gets out alive in that movie.
He always does. He always
Yeah.
does.
Or he wouldn't be Superman. He would just be man.
Well, we cried through most of it thinking that he did that.
Yeah.
So your one fact that you said about the self-made lake in, I think, did you say Kyrgyzstan or
Kazakhstan? Yeah.
Okay, so when you said that, my whole body just went like numb, because I've been over in the something stand,
yes,
and I was like, I didn't go swimming anywhere, did I?
Too late now.
But I didn't. But I didn't. I remember I was like, no, you didn't leave the base. You're good.
Oh my
was-
gosh.
You might have been in Kyrgyzstan. They had K2 was the base over there, and they have a fabulous lake. It's the second highest lake in the world, after I think Lake Titicaca in Mexico, and it's called Lake Issyk-Kul, and it's absolutely stunning. It's considered the mountains there. It's considered the Switzerland of the stands. So, and I think everything is pretty cool over there. It's no radioactive materials, but
Yeah.
Kazakhstan.
We're going to need more facts one day, because this just makes me believe that my reason for not leaving the house anymore is there's a good reason.
I know, I have so many questions. I'm like, what about I'm in California, right? So I pass by those what we like to call the well, I won't say it, we're in mixed company. But anyway, there's these huge domes that you pass by. We like to say it's like a robot that laid down. And those are nuclear, and we have all kinds of mystery around them. So this subject is so interesting to me. I could talk to you for hours, but actually, where can people find you and your book?
Yes, the Silent Count is available pretty much on all the online options to buy books, Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com and BooksAMillion.com, Bookshop.org, and even it's in a store in Washington, D.C. area where I actually live called Politics and Prose, so they can go into the store and buy it. They want to support a small local bookstore. I have my website at EA Smiroldo, SMIROLDO.com. And I'm all over Facebook and Twitter and all this good thing, Instagram. So you can come find me. I even have a couple of songs. You mentioned I'm a songwriter. So I have a couple of songs on YouTube. So just look up EA Smiroldo. You'll find me.
Oh, well,
You like
thank
the
you
rock and
so
roll?
much.
Yeah.
Rock and roll, yes, absolutely. Can't wait to check it out. Thank you so much for speaking with
Thank
us
you. Thanks for having me.
and blowing our
Bye.
minds.
Yeah.
Bye.
Ugh.
I mean, like, my mind is still like, I have so many gateway
Yeah.
questions. in my
Oh yeah,
mind.
I'm doing research later for sure.
For sure. But we have our next guest, Stephen Joseph, author of Snoodles children's book series, and he'll be talking about his Cranky Superpowers, a Cinderella Story. I feel like this is about me.
It could be.
Did you write a book about me?
No,
Cranky
no,
Cinderella?
no, no. It's nothing. It's not a cranky. It's about empowerment, but and it's a different kind of Cinderella story. So,
Yeah.
it's very, very different. I'm going, and actually, my next book is Cranky Superpowers: Life Lessons Learned from the Common Crankosaurus Chronicles. It follows up this adult book, A Grown-Up Guide to Effective Crankiness, the Crankosaurus Method. And yes, I have my Snoodles books, Snoodles, Cadoodles, Poodles, and I have another third book coming over there with that series. And this is going to be called Cinderella, A Cranky Superpower Tale.
Oh my gosh, I love.
So I have to set the stage because I'm going to be reading from the middle of the book or the story. So you have Bruce and Franny Wayne and their daughter Ella, and they are very wealthy. They live in Gothingham, and they run the Wayne Shoe Foundation. And the Wayne Shoe Foundation, they have they make these ruby red slippers, and they have magical powers. And of course, everybody loves the ruby red slippers, including the person who wants the ruby red slippers, which is the Wicked Witch. The Wicked Witch approaches Bruce and Franny and her daughter Ella as they come out of the theater, and she turns Bruce and Franny into frogs. She tries to do that to Ella, but because she's wearing the ruby red slippers, the spell backfires, and the Wicked Witch turns into a fly, and Bruce and Franny eats the Wicked Witch because now being frogs, flies are yummy. So that's what happens. And then
Naturally.
Ella forgets who she is, but she ends up living with her Aunt Maisie, with her Maisie Rapunzel, with her three daughters, Raisie, Stacy, and Tracy, who are a bit crazy. And she attempts to open up the marvelous Mrs. Maisie's shoe emporium to bring up these ruby red slippers, but they don't have the magical powers. Maisie's kind of annoyed at Cinderella. She gets a poisonous snake to kill Cinderella, but Cinderella could talk to snakes. And then because the Rapunzel sisters always clogging up the sink with their hair, this snake friend now helps her unclog the sinks, because that's what Cinderella does, cleaning the house, unclog the sinks and the toilets and the wood in the bathtub. So that's what's happening on the other side of town. And I come up with Prince Frankie, and he's, of course, the prince, and there's the king and queen. And then I will be doing a reading telling about that part of the story. So I will start.
Yes, go on it.
On the other side of town, not far from the mansion where the Wayne family estate stood, was the royal palace. This is where the king, queen, and Prince Frankie lived. As we have said, years earlier, the Wicked Witch used a spell to turn Prince Frankie into a frog. A year earlier, Prince Frankie, known back then as Frankie the Frog, saw a delicious fly land on a young lady named Snow White. Snow White herself had been put into deep sleep when the Wicked Witch tricked Snow White into eating a poisonous apple. Snow White would only be able to wake up if a prince approached her and kissed her lips. Frankie the frog was so grateful for the delicious fly meal that he found on Snow White's face. He gave Snow White a big thankful kiss. Immediately, Snow White woke up and Prince Frankie turned into a human form. Everyone in the kingdom, including Snow White, assumed that Prince Frankie and Snow White would get married and live happily ever after. However, after 9 months of dating, Prince Frankie broke up with Snow White. After the breakup, Prince Frankie paced every day throughout the castle. It became obvious to everyone that Prince Frankie was feeling very cranky. The king and queen, upset that Prince Frankie broke up with Snow White, summoned Prince Frankie into their private chambers. You seem very upset. Why don't you just get back together with Snow White? My dear Frankie, she seemed like such a nice girl. Besides, a prince who once was a frog cannot be so picky. I told you the story. It did not work out. First, she insisted on living with 7 dwarves. What kind of girl lives with 7 dwarves? You know, when I met your mother, she was living with 4 giants. That was different. The 4 giants were guarding the castle. Snow White is always busy cooking and cleaning after these 7 dwarves. I witnessed this. They may have been very little, but they were all huge slobs. With the mess they made, it was getting crazy. It was like living with 7 little children. You have to understand, this is destiny. You had the magical kiss with Snow White. Everyone in the kingdom wants to see you two get married. I will tell you again, it was not a kiss, it was a meal. The meal happened to be on Snow White's lips. I do not have to tell you again. When you were a frog, your mother cried herself to sleep every night. What kind of queen would have a frog for a son? She cried. You know, sometimes all I want to be is to be turned back into a frog. It was not so bad being a frog. When I was a frog, this wonderful frog couple, Brucey and Franny Frog, took me in and treated me like their own son. One night, they showed me in their frog home a pair of ruby red slippers. They told me that one day I will turn back into human form. They explained to me that when I did, I was to take these ruby red slippers and place them on the feet of the person who would one day be my bride. Once the shoes were placed on her feet, she would just have to say, "There's no place like home." Something magical is then supposed to happen, and I would know that the girl was the right girl for me. So, did you ever try putting the ruby red slippers on Snow White's feet? I did. And Snow White did say, "There is no place like home." So, that is good. What happened? The 7 dwarfs came over and gave us a group hug. I could tell you none of the 7 dwarfs ever learned how to take a bath. They all stunk like a sewer. That is not important. Everyone is talking about it. You do know Snow White came out with her autobiography, Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. It was such a big hit, you know. It even became a major motion picture. They're playing it in the movie theaters. I saw the movie the other night. It was great. Do you know how the movie ended? This is what's making me crazy. This is why I'm pacing up down the halls every day, brooding. Do you really want to know the reason we broke up? Snow White always got insulted when I referred to the 7 dwarfs as dwarves. She'd always try to correct me and say, "They're not dwarves. They're 7 cute little men." Day after day, I had to hear Snow White complaining about that. I always had to hear how insensitive I was. And what does she do once we break up? She puts out a best-selling book called Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. I tell you, Snow White is a vengeful person. She cannot be trusted. I understand, but you have a plan B? In fact, I do. I've been chatting online on the computer recently with this girl named Cinderella. She lives with her stepmother and the 3 stepsisters. Apparently, they're very mean to her and they never let Cinderella out of the house. When the 3 stepsisters are away, she sneaks onto the computer, and that is how we talk. Cinderella sounds like such a dirty name. I already do not like her. Even if you chat on the computer, it's still not the same as meeting in person. You have to admit, at least the music in the movie Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs is fabulous. Your mother ordered the album on Amazon, and she plays the soundtrack to the movie just before we go to bed. It's my favorite album. Snow White has such a beautiful voice. I have a plan, okay? I'm going to throw a big party at the palace next Saturday night. I will have the servants send out invitations to every maiden in the land, and I will even send out an invitation to Snow White. Wait a second, I like the plan, but this Cinderella, you say she's never allowed to leave the house. I know, but we've been talking. Cinderella tells me she plans to hook up with a fairy godmother that she ordered online. And this fairy godmother will magically transform her into a beautiful princess. She will arrive in the stagecoach meant for a princess. Once she arrives at the palace, I will put the ruby red slippers on her feet. She will then say, "There's no place like home." I assure you, something will happen. You will see. Son, you are living in a fairy tale. So tell me, what happens if nothing happens? If nothing happens, you have my word. I will get back together with Snow White, and Snow White and I will get married. I have to warn you that the 7 dwarfs will have to move into the palace, so it might be a bit smelly here. No worries. We'll make sure they all get bathed. And that's where I leave it off with the cliffhanger. What happens next at the party?
What does happen? Oh my
I was
god!
like,
Oh,
what?
I know, I was ready for more. I love this. I love this. And you're up there with one of our other authors with as many books as you have coming out. Amazing. Where did you get inspired by? Where did Cranky Superpowers come from in your mind?
Well, my first book was The Last Surviving Dinosaur, the Tyrannosaurus, and it's about how all humans evolved from this cranky dinosaur. And then I started writing cranky things, a blog, which became a book, and I just kept writing. And even in my first book, I have Hansel and Gretel that I turn around. In this book, I have The Wizard of Oz, where the lion gets to eat the wizard. I have the 3 little pigs, Inky, Pinky, and Stinky. So I play with, and even with my next book, Snoodles, and my next Snoodles book, Snoodles in Space, Episode 2, The Zoodles Strike Back. I actually, I get the idea, like somebody like I know Jennifer Moorman, she mentioned Willy Wonka. And in the Willy Wonka story, you have everybody loves Charlie and he gets the chocolate factory. But what happens to those kids who were kind of like greedy and selfish? And I have a play, like I take those kids as characters, as new characters in my Snoodles series. And
Love it.
the whole town did not like is Frumpy, Fritzy Fruidle, and Wimpy Whiny Woodle are the 2 kids, and when they go to the Chocadoodle factory and end up Frumpy has a Fitzy Witsy Papadoodle, and Wimpy Whiny has a Swizzly Twizzly Slimadoodle. So he ends up popping up, and then he turns into slime. And
What a mouthful.
Yeah,
I love this.
When you get into the noodle books, let me tell you, when we were reading them, and I'm trying to do it in Stephen's voice too, and I lost my voice because nobody reads the way Stephen does.
Nobody.
You will be intrigued, entertained, and absolutely loving every minute of it.
Where can people find you, and where can people find your books?
Well, I have my website, StephenJosephAuthor.com. There are no secrets. If you want to, everything ends up in the blog. I make it into a book afterwards. Even my next Snoodles story, it's Chocolate Factory Crankosaurus. So every blog, it has a Crankosaurus name. So there's lots of entertainment just going on to my website, StephenJosephAuthor.com, Facebook, Stephen Joseph Author, Instagram, Stephen Joseph Author. I have Instagram, I have a Twitter account at Last Surviving Dinosaur, but I never figured out Twitter. Don't understand it. And then in bookstores, online, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, all those good places.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for reading with us and sharing your new stuff. We can't wait to check it all out. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It was
Thanks,
a pleasure
Stephen.
being here. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh my gosh, love it. I love playing with all the classic tales that we grew up with and just like seeing them in new lights. I love that. I love it. But we have another amazing author coming up. We have Rebecca Inch-Partridge. She is a freelance editor who specializes in speculative fiction, mysteries, and memoirs, and is the author of a young adult science fantasy novel called Escaping the Dasha. I can't wait to hear what she has to say. She's going to read us a little bit of it, I heard. Hello!
Yeah. Hi. Cheers. I am glad to be here.
Ooh,
Cheers!
she has a good drink too. Yay.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
It's my summer go-to. It's equal parts 7-Up, cranberry juice, and orange juice. Very
Whoa.
fruity, very tropical, for
Love it.
refreshing. So
I definitely have to try it. I'm doing a little H2O, but I'm boring.
Yeah. I know. I was so unprepared with the drink. You guys are so smart.
Oh my gosh. Well, at least these authors are bringing it with their drinks. If we're not. So I heard we're gonna have a reading from your book. Did you want to tell us a little bit about your sci-fi fantasy novel before you did a reading about it?
Well, I'm going to dive in fairly quickly, but
Okay.
basically, this is the book that launches a trilogy that takes place in the Praxis star cluster. But to begin with, the main character is in hiding on Earth. So we get to find out about Twyla's life before she gets kidnapped. And so I'm going to read the first few pages. And then I have a family story because, well, those are just great fodder for telling stories. Any vacation can lead to some really amusing tales.
True. Can't wait to hear.
All right, so Escaping the Dashia, Chapter 1. 8 years after coming to Earth, I sat at the kitchen table in our apartment pretending to do my schoolwork while actually sneaking in some video game time. My only worry was getting caught. If my mom caught me playing video games instead of doing my homework, I would lose my privileges for a week. Every time she glanced over, I'd click my laptop screen back to my essay. As she bustled about the kitchen making dinner, Mom hummed her favorite 80s tune. Though a bit past middle age, she was beautiful. With her soft, huge brown eyes, long raven black hair, high cheekbones, and a brick red tan, laugh lines made up her only wrinkles. Dad came in and took a whiff of the roast cooking in the crock pot. That smells delicious. He gave Mom a hug and turned to me. I'd switched to the site on the United Nations for research. How's your schoolwork going? He asked, with enough humor in his voice to make me think I'd been caught. The doorbell rang and Dad went to answer it, giving me a wink on his way out. I bowed my head. No more video games for me today. I heard the front door open. The voice of my real father, Colonel Eben Millett, came from the living room. I've come for my daughter. Shock and disbelief gave way to fear. I hadn't heard that voice since being sent into hiding on Earth. Since then, Tina and Bill Splendor had adopted me and given me a home, something I'd never really had before. While I was glad to know my father was alive, the fact his return might mean losing the life I had here with the Splendors wasn't lost on me. And the thought of returning to the hell my life had been scared the crap out of me. I twisted in my chair to look at my mom, Tina, hoping for some reassurance. She stood frozen, mixing bowl in hand. Her expression showed every bit as much fear as I felt. She and Bill had become my parents when Colonel Millett failed to come reclaim me. I'd arrived on this remote planet with some serious issues, and it had taken them years to win me over. Now, that nice, comfortable life with a mom and dad who loved me and that I could love in return might be over. Where is she? Colonel Millett's demand resounded from the living room. Mom's tan face paled to sheet white. She glanced at the kitchen door and then back at me in panic. Twyla, stay here, she ordered in a hushed tone. She dropped the bowl on the counter with a clatter. Sauce splattered the happy yellow wall. Ignoring the mess, she rushed into the living room. I have no idea what you're talking about. Dad sounded pretty harsh for him. Who are you? Somehow, I could sense he knew exactly who this guy was, and it terrified him. I know Twyla is here, Eben said. Despite Mom's effort to hold me back, I entered the living room. Eben stood at the front door of our apartment with Dad blocking his entrance. I moved towards them with faltering steps. Father? He'd changed. His black hair was now almost completely gray. Dark bags hung under his eyes. You came, I stammered. You finally came. Of course I did, he replied with a mix of anger and defensiveness. I thought you were dead. I was about to run to him, but he took a step back. A horrified expression contorted his once handsome face as he looked me over. A wave of revulsion hit me. It wasn't my emotions I was feeling. It was his. My empathic powers had returned. Suddenly I knew that he'd come for his little girl. But at 15, I now resembled my real mother so much that he recoiled at the sight of me. Memories of my life before coming to the Splendors flooded my mind, knocking me back to the day my parents split up. My father had been a brave and decorated officer in the Zartos regime military, yet he'd crumbled under my mother's telepathic onslaught. As she ripped through his mind, I'd felt it. At 7, my own mental shields weren't strong enough to block the sensation of the stabbing penetration of her attack, or my father's anguish. Once she'd finished, I'd gone to comfort him. My mother, Cassie, wrenched me from his arms and hauled me out the door. I kicked and screamed, begging my father not to let her take me away, but he'd done nothing. My body trembled at the memory as Tina pulled me into her arms. Breaking me free from the flashback, she rocked me side to side and whispered in my ear. My adopted mom's soft, sweet voice anchored me back in the present. I'm not sure which hurt more, feeling how much my own father hated me, or realizing I was my mother's daughter after all. With my empathic powers back, was I destined to become a monster like her? And to find out, you'll have to read the book.
Oh my gosh. Whew. Cliffhanger. Love it.
Yeah.
But you also have a story to tell us?
I do.
Oh
I tried to
gosh,
make sure I had the timing straight because I do believe that tradition and family lore start with gathering those little nuggets, those family stories to get passed on to the next generation. And it's what helps build community.
Yeah.
So I am really glad to get a chance to do this because I can't wait to tell this story to my grandson when he's old enough for me to tell him about his father. So, my son Josh, oh my gosh, he was such a precocious, outspoken 6-year-old. Here he is at 6 years old, looks like an angel, had the tongue of a devil, just no filters. Whatever he thought was what came out of his mouth. So, one time, we're on one of those long road trips where your foot just gets heavier and heavier on the gas pedal. And we got pulled over by a state trooper. So the officer comes up to the window and does the typical, hey, you know how fast you were going? And it's our son that speaks up. Oh, of course, officer. We were doing 80. My dad said so. He said since we're on I-80, we can do 80, and that's okay. So my husband cringes, and I, turn a little red and put my hand to my mouth. But Josh doesn't stop. He goes on. He's like, oh, but you can't give my daddy a ticket. He's a firefighter. My mom said cops never give firefighters tickets. Right, Mom? So I let out this little, and, you know, I go from having my hand over my mouth to my hands over my eyes, and the officer waits until I peek between my fingers and kind of look at him. And he is staring at me, very amused, and he goes, oh, is that right, ma'am? Before I can come up with anything to say, Josh is at it again. Oh, you can't give her a ticket either because she wasn't driving. And only the driver can get a ticket. But Mom hates driving with Dad in the car. He's a horrible backseat driver. So now it's my husband and the cop staring at me. The cop shakes his head and he starts to pull on his goatee beard. And he looks at Josh and he goes, anything else you'd like to tell me, son? Josh, all excited, goes, oh, yeah. When I grow up, I'm going to be a cop like you. Dad told me I shouldn't be a firefighter because it's just too much work. So I'm going to be a cop so I can pull people over. And that way I can talk to them. I like talking to people. I like people. Do you like people? Is that why you became a cop? Do you live around here? I hear cops never live where they work. Is that true? And this officer's eyes just are getting bigger and bigger and bigger as Josh goes on and on without taking a single breath. So finally I have to intervene. And I'm like, Josh, that's enough. And both my husband and I wait for the license and registration, please. And instead, the officer kind of shakes his head and he gives my husband this look of complete sympathy. And he goes, how far did you say you were going? And my husband sits back with a sigh and he goes, all the way to Yellowstone. And the officer lets out a laugh and he taps the top of the car. You know how they do when they're done? And turns away. And over his shoulder, he says, good luck and have a nice day. And laughs all his way back to the vehicle and drives away. And that's how my son's motor mouth got us out of what would have been a very expensive speeding ticket.
I kind of want to keep him in my car.
Oh my gosh. I want to know, is he still like that? My cheeks hurt.
Yeah, has he grown out of it? Did he become a cop? There's so many questions.
He is now a 29-year-old settled man, father, and he works for the county. And he was one of those that outgrew the ADHD. But as a kid, he would just do 10 times as many things in a day, 10 times as many good things, but 10 times as many bad things. And we just could not keep up with him. And this cop just didn't even try. He was like, oh,
fair
poor man.
Yeah. Like, you've got enough to deal with. I love that. Where can people find you and your book?
So my website is fairly easy. It's ripartridge.com. I am on Facebook. I have an author page under Rebecca Inch-Partridge. And then my book, besides Amazon and Barnes and Noble, if you really want to support local bookstores, you can order it from any bookstore like you would any other book. And I do believe in trying to keep our bookstores alive. So it's always something to consider if you're going to be going to your nearest bookstore sometime soon anyways. But I would love to hear from you if you do read the book, because I'm one of those authors that really likes to talk to the readers. And I am hard at work on book 2.
Love it. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us, especially a very personal story. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you. You guys have a good summer.
You too.
Bye.
Bye. Oh my gosh.
My cheeks.
I know.
Yeah.
I need that. I needed that.
I did. Yeah.
Families are so funny. I love it. Well, but we have one more author.
Yeah.
So let's bring them on in. Corinne Newville. And she has an amazing presentation for us from her book, Indiscernible
Super
Elements.
cool.
I'm
Yeah.
super excited for this. Hello.
Yes, hey, Corinne.
Hello.
Hi.
You guys are so fun. My
Oh,
cheeks
thanks.
hurt from her story too.
No. And now there's a cat in the background. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect timing. Well, I cannot wait to see what you have to show us from your book, Incredible Elements.
Yeah.
Indiscernible Elements.
Yeah.
Also incredible.
Yeah,
Love
it's
it.
called Indiscernible Elements, Calcium. My book is from the perspective of calcium. And calcium shows us a story of how humans, architecture, and the planet are all connected. And just some quick fun facts about calcium so you know. So calcium makes up nearly 2% of our human bodies. And, you know, the same element that makes up our bodies is also modified and used for architectural products. So like the drywall that's just sitting right behind you guys, they take limestone and bake it. And I wouldn't say they really bake it. It's more like at 1,000 degrees for a long time. But it turns into like a powder, a different kind of calcium, and then that's put in your drywall. And the drywall is what keeps fires from spreading. So the calcium turns into a vapor, which is what slows down fires. And then the same element, it makes up the Earth's core and is in most, if not all, living organisms.
Oh. Wow, and I just thought it was a supplement. I'm just kidding. love learning more facts about this. I love it.
So the video I've prepared it shows my process of how I make the drawings.
Oh.
There's just 2 drawings I show within the video. In my book, there are many more drawings than that, but I just wanted to share that process. And then I narrate over it the poems from the book.
Oh, perfect. I can't wait to see it. Yay.
Yeah.
Indiscernible elements. Calcium. Calcium, an element, metal within the Earth's crust, within human bodies, within organisms on land and in the sea, found within the walls of homes. Calcium will tell us a story. The element will show us a story. I want to show you what it would be to grow together and let things be. When we are together, accumulated strength, rebirthing ourselves, we reveal beautiful complexities. We await our fate. From within the soil, up the nervous system of roots, we create barriers, facades, exoskeleton. My life will refurbish through mortal's decay. I am now above ground, in a lifeless stone, in a monster, within the walls, a corpse. I have been cremated, manipulated by mortals, trapped in walls of depression. I once was dancing among seashells, but I am an endless cycle. Living and dying, hoping to be hit by elements. I am resurrected. Water morphs me into life. I crystallize. An organic weapon. I am a decaying disease, living in a paradox. I have fought for you since birth. We've been living in sickness, putting ourselves, other monsters, in front of Mother. We can no longer surrender ourselves. We must lay down to rest. Surrender ourselves. Mother has been in a state of mourning, agony, sickness. Your skeleton of selflessness, the transformation, offers relief. You and I revive within the footings, ascend from the soil. Ceaselessly layering ourselves interchangeably. We live with mortals, their ancestors encapsulating the stone beast. Mortals can practice with living, mortals can practice with dying. Beasts can live and die, like and with organisms. Through storytelling, Calcium exposed new relationships in our built environment to practice with living and dying.
Wow. That was so powerful.
Very profound. Yeah, I felt like I was at an art gallery watching.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm lost for words. Very.
What
very well
what
done.
kind of technique were we watching? Like, what? I mean, we saw it obviously, but like we probably in our less artsy brains cannot understand the medium in which you are working. What is tell us a little bit about it.
I do most of the drawings on my iPad, and then
Mm.
I may take it into Photoshop after and change some things, but most of it is done by hand on my iPad, and
Wow.
like it's through a series. Like sometimes I'll trace over an image, but then I'll use that drawing from what I traced and trace over it again to make it more my own, and it keeps going. I think that video is 5 minutes. The drawings definitely do not take 5 minutes.
No, I would not think so. I assumed we were in the speed up process because that looked like it took a lot of, time and energy and just like exploring these different shapes and shades, which I didn't even know you could do on your iPad. That is amazing.
Yeah, I love it as a tool.
Yeah.
And the images you saw, the first one was a tree and the roots going into coral, and Calcium is in charge of is like a signaler for the tree. So it'll bring up water when it needs water. And then calcium also makes up coral and is all of coral. Like when we see coral as it's white, when it's dead, that we see all over now.
Yeah.
That is calcium. That's a skeleton.
No.
Yeah. And then the last image was like my way of depicting what calcium looks like when it's growing. And it's latching on to ascend from a footing of a building, which concrete is also used, or calcium is also used for concrete.
That's amazing. I just didn't know. I just did not know all of this. I'm learning so much today. Where can people find you, and where can people find your work?
NewvilleCorinne.com, and that's where my whole portfolio is, and it'll bring you a link to the Black Hat Press, which is a small publishing firm who published my book, and you can order it there. It's also at a local book gallery, Wilson Book Gallery in Wilson, Wyoming, which is where near I live, and on Amazon and wherever you can find an ebook.
Oh, we have a question before we let you go. How long did it take to create that? I'm assuming the book.
The book?
Yeah.
The book has been in process since 2017. So it first started as like like a little digit, I guess you could say. And then it got moved. It turned into a book after my architectural thesis. And the actual book itself, I worked on for a couple of years.
And what about the video? How long did the video take for you to make?
Luckily, the video, not that long, except for the recording. That was my first time recording myself, so still don't know how I feel about that, but I guess that'll take time. But the iPad creates a time lapse, so I edited it for a while. It took a whole day. But
I think with the spoken word and the recording and the message itself, that is, I mean, I could see an art gallery with just those recordings all over with different elements. Oh, what a show.
Love it. Yes.
Well, this is the cover of it too.
Oh, amazing.
Love it.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today. And
everyone, thank you.
Go find this very pretty, very deep book. I'm very excited about it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks, Corinne. Bye-bye.
Oh, there's some talented people today. Talented people.
My goodness.
Lady?
So many range of emotions.
Right. Like, okay, we started with a fruit cookie. And we ended with calcium and death, but in a
such a beautiful way.
I went from my stomach being hungry to my mind being hungry. Like, hello.
Every inch of me is hungry right now. I love it.
Yet somehow satiated. I mean,
yes.
Wow, wonderful event, an array of authors and speakers. It's interesting how they all have this book that you want to read on the beach and traveling, but then there's like these dark undercurrents weaving throughout that just kind of got me in the feels, guys. I don't know how else to explain it.
I hear you. The feels are felt.
Yeah. I caught myself sometimes, like I said earlier, I forgot that we were like live and doing an event, and I was just like,
I know. I was like, sit back down.
Get back and pay attention.
Love it.
Exactly. Well, I have turned the tables on both of you a little bit.
Okay.
Both of us was like,
well, you guys are amazing hosts, and so appreciate you doing this. And before we announce the grand prize winner, since we've got a little bit of time, I want to talk to each one of you about your writing, your projects, because you both have books and you both are creatives and you both contribute as well to the world of the literary world. So, Anastasia, if you don't mind
Yeah.
me starting with you,
Nope, not
I
at
would
all.
good, good. 'Cause I'd love to know about your book. Now you hear this. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, so it kind of came out of my comedy. I'm a comedian, and I do a one-woman show called 50 Shades of Mixed: Confessions of Your Ethnically Ambiguous Best Friend. Being biracial, I was kind of always put in the best friend role on screen and off screen. And for years I fought it, and now I'm really embracing it. And so my audiobook is about, it's like your best friend sitting down with you and doing some self-help with you. We have everything in there, from talks about, how we look, to meditations to make you feel like you're heard, in funny ways. Or my favorite is a meditation about how to walk into a room feeling like the ultimate powerful being, which of course is a white man. So at the end you will feel like a white man.
That
Yes. Like, the meditation goes into things like at the end where it's like, okay, so now you're a white male. Do you think that you're wrong? No. Do you think you can accomplish that? Yes. It's great. But it's just funny takes on self-help, because I feel like that makes it more acceptable or accessible to everybody when it doesn't feel so uptight and so daunting. I think self-help and self-exploration and support should be for everybody, and that's really what that's about.
And you nailed it, because again, we're talking about kind of the dark side and the light side, but comedy, and I know you've done stand-up and
Yeah.
you're a comedian, but that's the thing. If those comics aren't laughing, it's because they're crying. It's because you can
Mhm.
take a truth and turn it and expose it, and then people
Yes.
have that moment.
I think comedy is the best way to explore so many hard subjects. It starts so many good conversations because it makes people a little bit easierly open and receptive. And I feel like it's our job as comedians to deliver better messages if we can.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that just ties right back around. That's what literature does. That's what
Yeah.
books do. It shines a light on things that we need to talk about and think about.
Exactly. And that's
Listen to
why
about.
you need to hear this is the title.
You need to hear this. I
There you
love
go.
it. Love it. And okay, and speaking of that, you are also part of a film that is premiering this month, and that also has some horrific but funny elements. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's called Deadhead, and it has one of the amazing original cast members of In Living Color. For those of you who are that of or a certain age, she's an amazing Takea is the star, and it's really about female friendships, female empowerment under the guise of a horror movie, comedy, monster movie, and yeah, I mean, I just felt so good filming this. I got to be a bestie under the most interesting of circumstances in this one, and I really am excited for people to actually see it.
Fantastic. And links for all of these goodies for everything. You guys can see those in the chat and everything. So that is so awesome. Anastasia,
you.
congrats on all your successes. That's
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. And go watch the trailer of that movie. It is absolutely wonderful, and it had nostalgia written all over it.
Right?
I cannot wait for it to come out.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And CJ, you too. Oh my goodness. What, you've got 3 books? 3 books coming out this year?
I'm trying to get 3 books out this year. 2 of them are co-authored. One of them is just me. So I have a little help.
A little help from your friends. I love that.
Yeah,
So
well, a lot of help. They're awesome.
25 years to life.
Yes, ma'am.
Talk about that one.
Yeah, it's a sweet contemporary small town romance. Fresh out of college, and a girl's life gets turned upside down, and he comes in right when she needs him the most, but then they get torn apart, and years later, somehow their life gets brought back together, and you get to experience it and find out how their life gets brought back together, and if they'll be able to find that love again. And and I love that because it's kind of almost like my love story with my husband. We for 6 years we were just friends, and then finally after 6 years we met, and it been inseparable, and going on 11 years this year of being married. So sometimes you never know what you have until you have to just go for it, and it's an amazing way that you can find love again if you never give up.
Oh, that's such a great message. I love that. I love.
Yeah.
And talking about co-authoring your books. Now you co-authored, well, you co-authored 2, you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of them was with your nephew.
Yeah, so we have a series, the Southmost Valley series, and it is actually semi kind of around the area that we live in. So we use a lot of the nuances of the RGV, Rio Grande Valley, because it's such a vibrant lifestyle here. So the characters are Hispanic, and it is a young adult paranormal. I don't know how to explain it. Yeah, it's got vampires and a love story, but a young adult love story. They're in high school and they're trying to find their footing, and then a vampire comes in. So it's a Southmost Valley series, and it's book number 2 that we are going to publish this year, and it's called Found in Romania. So it's more of the origin stories. The first one was Found in the Fountain, where the young boy who was just starting his senior year in high school, and he was turned into a vampire when he just was getting the girl that he's been in love with since he was in kindergarten. So, and it's kind of quasi around my nephew who has had some ups and downs in his life, being special needs and stuff, and he has had to learn the obstacles of life. So yeah, and there's an underground vampire clan, and this one there's going to be world domination from the rural vampires and stuff like that. So we're having a good time with it. We co-author it. It's all of his characters, and I just help him bring them to life.
That is so cool that you're working with your nephew like that and bringing that together. And of course, if there's a love story set in high school, there has to be vampires taking over the world, right?
Yes, and he just finished his junior year in high school, and he'll be starting his senior year next year, and we're super stoked for everything that he is going to be experiencing in life, and to be a published author, and this will be his second book, so we're really excited about that.
Oh, mad props to him.
I love that. Yeah. Working with your nephew is like, I love that so much. I just became a great aunt today, like literally while we were on this stream. I know. I'm like, let's write a book together. I know you're just born.
You have to.
I love that. I love hearing about families that work together. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So incredible. And congratulations. OMG, Anastasia.
Great aunt.
That's a special place. That's a special place.
Yeah, I didn't expect to be at this age, but here we are.
It happens. Life just sneaks up faster than you can ever imagine. All right. Mama Mel's Kitchen. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. And speaking of great aunts, the reason why I even wrote that book is because of my little great niece, Linnea, and she is actually on the cover of the book. This is the second book in the Mamaw Mel Kitchen series that is co-authored with the amazing author Elizabeth Johnson from Playtown Multimedia. She is the vice president over there of that publishing company. And we are writing the second book there, and it's going to be the case of the missing spatula. So Mamaw Mel and Linnea will actually be going on a hunt to find out who has stolen their best spatula out of their kitchen. So you get 2 recipes each book that you can actually cook with somebody in the kitchen, and some lessons on life, stuff like that. So I have 3 different series with my great niece that I write for, and I love it because I send her all the books, and her grandma actually, which is my sister, reads the books to her, and that was the reason why I started that's why I started being a children's book author, was because of my great niece. So yes, you have to write books with her. Or him. Was it a boy or girl?
It's a boy.
You have to write books with him. Yes.
I know. I'm so excited. We're going to do some weird comic books, whether he likes it or not.
I love that. I love that. And the quest for the missing spatula? I mean, who needs to go looking for the Holy Grail or the Ark of the Covenant? It's a spatula, right?
Yeah. That's what's the important part.
Amazing.
You have to have the right one when you're cooking. We all know that in our kitchen. Like there's a special spatula.
Exactly. We have our special stuff, and it brings out that really good energy that we need to make. So I get it. I understand.
Well, if it's too floppy and it's not picking up the thing because the end is floppy, it's a hot mess. Literally.
Yeah, it's not great. No, not at all.
And I will just let you know, my co-author is the baker. She bakes all of these, and she'll do pop-up shops, and she'll have the actual baked goods from the book and the book there in her pop-up shops, and people love it. And I actually go to the store because I can't bake.
Amazing.
That's where the baking came in. Like I do the other stuff, but she brought the baking in. So that's why we have this great teamwork that we write the books in. So
that's what collaboration is all about.
Yeah, Elizabeth has a great ability to bring this side out of the book when we write together, and that's why I love writing with her.
Wow. And you two have been great together, I must say. Thank you for hosting, co-hosting, producing, bringing this all together.
I was trying. I was like, am I even making a heart? It's a weird oblong, but it's still, I love it.
I like it. I like it. I'll take it. I'll take that love. Love.
Thank you, ladies, again. Thank you so much. And I do want to give a quick shout out. Thank you to Bedside Reading. They have been an essential part of the Beachbound Book Bash, as well as Books That Make You, and of course, Black Chateau. Now, Bedside Reading, in case people didn't catch it, they do books at bedsides, poolsides, firesides. They put them in the hands of VIPs through their partnerships with luxury and boutique hotels. And they have this cool thing called On the Download, which people get access to because you have attended the Beachbound Book Bash. So grab that link. It's also on the Facebook page, and go grab some of those books. As well, grab books from all of the great authors you've heard from today. Get those beach reads ready. Bring them with you as you're traveling. And one last thing before we go, guys, the grand prize winner, right as we hit the top of the hour, the winner of those 9 books, those novels, plus the beach bag, including those books from the authors that you've heard from today. Plus, we have books from Randy Braun and Sarah Winokur, too. The winner is, drumroll, please, Misty W. Misty W. We'll email you too, Misty. Don't worry.
Yay, Misty!
Congratulations. Thank you all. Thank you, CJ and Anastasia.
Thanks for having us.
So much.
This was so fun.
Thank you, Anastasia, Desiree. It was a blast.
Thank you, guys.
It was a blast. And thank you, everybody. We're going to see you again next time, next year, for the Beachbound Book Bash.